Welcome back. This is Report to Wyoming, and I'm Karen Snyder. At the beginning of this year's legislative session, I attended something called a Citizen Lobbyist training, designed to help folks who want to better understand how the legislative process works in order to better take advantage of the right of every citizen to have their voice heard by lawmakers. Throughout the one-day training put on by the Equality State Policy Center, the topic of new technologies like the Internet and, in particular, email kept coming up. It's changed the way we communicate, made it almost instantaneous, and it's streamlined our access to information. Sarah Goring for the ESPC says here in Wyoming, we've only just begun.
I think we haven't even scratched the surface, really. I was at a Legislative Process Committee meeting back in October, and it was held up in room 302 of the Capitol. I don't know if you went on that on your tour, but it's a big hearing room, and that's now fitted with a video conferencing capability, and it was being used for the first, or at least one of the first times during this meeting, where one of the committee members was in Evanston at a video conferencing site, and we could see and hear him, he could see and hear us, and it was almost real time, just a split second off, about kind of like talking on a cell phone. And it was amazing. And then they were talking about they're hoping to have the potential to have people watch legislative proceedings on their laptop and even to testify to a committee via computer, where you'd have a little webcam and they could see you and you could see them, and there'd be a certain time set aside during the committee meeting for people anywhere in the state to have some input, which is really exciting because having the legislature in Cheyenne in the wintertime is quite limiting. As we talked about today, so often the time schedule is extremely fast. A lot of times you don't get a lot of notice about what's going on. So if a hearing is going to be tomorrow or 2 days from tomorrow or today in Cheyenne, and you live in Riverton or Sundance or Sheridan or Evanston, and it snows, you aren't going to get there. And so the ability to be able to interact with the legislature electronically is really exciting. And now the advent of email and the ability to access information over the net has improved things hugely from the days when I first started lobbying, where if you weren't in Cheyenne, you just forget it. But the potential is even greater. And
it is essential to people who want to track legislation from home. So if you're, if you have internet service and you're in Cody or Evanston, you can pretty closely follow any bills you're interested in, and then when you see that they're about to come up for discussion, then that's the time to contact your legislator and tell them what you would like them to do with that legislation.
That was Dan Neal, again, ESPC Executive Director. Another member is Warren Murphy. He's Director of the Wyoming Association of Churches, who are also affiliated with the ESPC. Warren led my tour group through the Capitol that afternoon. We talked about the huge leap made in access with the advent of a computerized legislature.
The whole system very accessible to people now. It used to be that you really had to have somebody here all the time in order to lobby or to know what's going on. And even then, it had a hard time following things because votes weren't necessarily recorded, and somebody had to be there to count the votes. So the lobbyists have to sit in the lobby, and when the bill came up for a vote, they'd quick have to go through a chart. Well, that's all changed now.
Wendy Madsen is the information officer for the Legislative Services Office, and she knows the LSO's website inside and out, and she shared her knowledge and excitement about the possibilities. The Legislative Services Office has been making the process available electronically since about the year 2000.
So you can get bill information available to you through 2001, and as you go through those years, you'll find more and more information. This year, we have information ranging from how to contact your legislator, the bills, calendars for the bills, listening to live proceedings, and all the way up to how your legislator voted on a bill.
It seems like it kind of flattens the field, this accessibility to the it's one way that information really enriches our lives, or potentially can. It gives us more control, more power.
It really does. I think the neatest thing is watching, as I was saying today, people are living their lives. They are all over the state. They don't have time to drive down to Cheyenne and necessarily go to a committee meeting, but through our legislative website, being able to email and call legislators, you can participate no matter where you're at in the state. You can listen in, and it really makes it so that everybody can see what's going on in the halls of the Capitol through the computer.
Yeah, and you mentioned email. It's been talked about a couple of times this morning by different people. Different views, as you said. There are many different views about the use of email.
Our legislators have a variety of styles and technology, and some are, most of them are on the email system and are checking those. But keep in mind that they are getting bombarded by emails, especially this time of year. So getting through all those is quite a project in and of itself. But yeah, it is one of many avenues to contact your local legislator.
Email is very helpful. It's probably the best way to communicate with us during the session.
That's Representative Mary Throne again from Cheyenne.
But they need to be personal emails, not mass emails. And it's always important for me to know where somebody's coming from in terms of their address or generally where they live. I always try to respond first to my own constituents. I don't respond to mass emails. And I do try to respond to any personal email that comes from anybody. I will admit that I'm not always perfect with that, but it is helpful.
You're listening to Report to Wyoming. I'm Karen Snyder, and when we come back, we'll hear from some of those who attended the Citizens Lobbyist training, find out what they hope to take away at the end of the day, and get a sense of the broad range of interests these potential citizen lobbyists might be bringing to the legislature in the future. Welcome back. We've been hearing this morning from a number of presenters at a recent training in Cheyenne for citizen lobbyists who want to know how to be effective in getting a message across to a legislator. I was there that day and took part in the training myself and spent some time asking participants what they hoped to get out of the day. Maybe first identify who you are.
Oh, Nurie Glasgow from Casper.
And you're here representing an organization?
Yeah, with Serve Wyoming. Yeah.
Right. And so far, what have you picked up this morning?
To be a little bit more calm about the process, know that there is a process and that there's a lot of people out there who you could use as resources. So, and then I can understand kind of what Ray Lynn was saying about former Senator Ray Lynn Jobe was saying that there's always people out there who will help show you the ropes. So that's kind of, in a big sense, it's always about demystifying the process. It's an ongoing process. If you're always going to learn something, you're always going to make mistakes, but you have the resources to cover yourself and to, be able to get back to somebody if you don't know the answers. So it is really informative that way.
Martha Martinez Del Rio.
And you are representing yourself or an organization?
Both, as an individual and as a Sierra Club member.
What did you hope to get out of today?
Mostly learning how to approach legislators as a citizen, or even as a citizen interested in particular issues, how to present myself, how to properly and politely introduce bills. I think as an added bonus, I've gotten a lot more information about how I can track bills and see how they're doing. Well, I wasn't sure what to expect, but I think I'm armed with a lot of information where I'd be comfortable going up to the Capitol and saying, okay, I'm interested in these bills, how to track where the bill is at the time, how to find which legislators are on the committees addressing the bill. I think I know I have to do a lot of homework before I would go and actually speak to somebody on a bill.
Isabel Waddell, and I'm from Driggs, Idaho.
From Idaho?
Yes.
What you doing here?
Well, I actually was informed about this by a citizen of Alta, Wyoming. We live in what's called Idaho, in a little isolated valley, and so we thought we'd stop by here and get some education.
So far, what have you learned?
Well, I've learned, number one, a lot about how lobbyists look at the world, and I really appreciated what our former senator had to say. She was very informative, and just getting to know folks,
Why do you think it's important for people, the average person, to know what's going on and care what's going on in a legislative session?
Well, because whatever they're doing in the legislative session affects our day-to-day lives. It affects how we're taxed. It affects what services are available to us. It affects our quality of living. It affects our brothers and sisters, and it's about what's important to us.
Well, first I have to admit that I have been to this training for several years, and I'm kind of part of the mentor, the group that helps put it on, the Equality State Policy Center. And what we have got out of this is a huge amount of participation from citizens around the state that have come to the legislature and had an effect on how laws were passed and what has been done.
So your name is Terry Jones. You're a member of the Equality State Policy Center, is that right?
A former member. I retired 2 or 3 months ago.
And your name?
Brianna Jones.
And where are you from?
I'm from the University of Wyoming with the Office of Student Leadership and Civic Engagement.
And so, are you guys all from this?
I'm employed by ASUW, which is the student government at the University of Wyoming.
And you're from the university as well?
I'm with the Student Sustainability Council.
Right. So, why is it important for you to be here today?
Primarily, we're concerned with the university's new transportation plan and trying to get some funding for that.
And so far this morning, you've heard from some speakers. What have you learned?
Just a lot of tips, basically telling us that we maybe should have gotten started and organized a little bit earlier, but we're going to work really hard to talk to people anyway. I think in Wyoming it's really nice that we only have one university and that legislators are accessible. So even though we maybe should have organized ourselves just a little bit better, we're going to give it a shot. And I think we're going to be prepared and we have the information we need, so that's good.
I think it's extremely valuable to be an activist, and if that happens in your everyday life or through your job, both are important. And so especially in Wyoming, when something like the legislature affects each and every citizen in a state with only 500,000 people, it's important for everyone to pay attention to what's going on and how that's affecting them personally.
Chris Colligan. I'm a wildlife advocate for the Greater Yellowstone Coalition.
Right.
And,
Have you done any lobbying before?
I have not. I'm learning some very good training here today and how to effectively lobby the legislature. We're very lucky here in Wyoming because we have a citizen legislature and they're interested in our opinions and we are looking forward to working with them.
The system is not impenetrable. You need passion, you need dedication, you need the will to do it.
Chris Calling is a field organizer with the Equality State Policy Center, and she offered these parting words of encouragement.
There is hope. There's always room for change, and if you want to do something bad enough, all you have to do is want to do it, attitude and perseverance, and find the people and those organizations that are already doing that kind of work and ask for help. There are a lot of different organizations that are willing and able to help. Like our legislator said this morning, very graciously, they're there to help us. We work together as a team. We should work together as a team, and I believe we do. So for anybody that's thinking that it's a hard system to get into, it isn't. Just I encourage anybody to participate in the process. It's a wonderful process, and we have hope for the future.
You've been listening to Report to Wyoming. I'm Karen Snyder. Have a peaceful and relaxing Sunday.